Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for being here. So, welcome to Fearless Fempreneurs, where we bring together amazing women entrepreneurs who are daring and fearless to share their knowledge and journey with you. So, hi, my name is Huda. I'm the founder of Fempreneur Secrets. I coach women to become visible online through social media. And, besides doing all of that, we also have a podcast which we run. And this particular live session will also be published later on onto the podcast. So we also have this Facebook Live show where we share amazing women entrepreneurs. We want to showcase these amazing, fearless fempreneurs so that they can share with you their side of the story. So without further ado, I'm actually going to introduce to you our guest for tonight. Okay, I'm actually still waiting for a few more people to join us before I do the introduction. So, if you are here and you are joining us, and you want to make the most out of this session. Okay, so the topic today is going to be non-profit, a different kind of business. Drop your questions for our guest today in the comments section, and Evelyn or myself will answer the questions as they come, and as long as they are relevant to what we are talking about today. And I know that for a fact, there are various business models out there. Profit, for-profit, non-profit, social enterprise. There's so many different business models out there. But when you look at non-profit, is it something that you would normally consider for your business? So it's really interesting how we managed to have Evelyn to join us today to share about this particular topic, about why non-profit is actually a different type of business. It has its own merits on its own, and I think it's really amazing to see the kind of work that Evelyn does. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest for this evening. She is Miss Evelyn Koo, and she is sharing on the topic of non-profit, a different kind of business. Now, Evelyn is a passionate advocate for persons with aphasia, or PWA for short, and the founder of Aphasia SG, which is the first non-profit organization supporting PWA and their caregivers in Singapore. She is also an experienced speech and language pathologist with a demonstrated history of working across clinical settings, acute hospital, community, and home-based therapy. So I want to welcome Evelyn to the show. I think there's something wrong with her camera, so let's just give it some time first, before we go on. Yeah, okay, there you are. All right, so I'm gonna pop up Evelyn to the screen. Hi, Evelyn. Thank you so much for
Hey,
joining
hi.
us.
Hi, Huda. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, I think I lost connection a little bit. Well, thank you, Huda, for the very good introduction. And hi, everyone tuning in. First of all, I want to say thank you to Fearless Fempreneurs for inviting me to share my insights on a topic that is very close to my heart. I've known Huda for a couple of years, and I think it's amazing her journey. And I love what she's doing. It really resonates with me, supporting women who are daring and fearless and wanting to strike out. So, what I'm going to talk about today is non-profit, a different kind of business. And as she mentioned, the non-profit that I started actually last year is called Aphasia Singapore. So aphasia must be something that is quite foreign. Like, you must be thinking, what is it? It's a medical condition actually, and it's very much tied to my profession as a speech therapist. So I'm going to define aphasia. It's a communication impairment that is acquired by a person after a brain injury. And the most common form of brain injury is actually a stroke. But it can also be caused by traumatic brain injury, such as after a road traffic accident, a fall, or it can also be caused by brain tumor and brain infection. It's even though the term may not be very known to people, it's actually rather common because we know from research that more than one third of stroke patients suffer from aphasia, meaning they have difficulty communicating after after they suffer this acute illness. But nothing is really done as a form of support group or community service for this population. So, what really started me on this journey actually was when I was working in a big hospital in Singapore in 2016. Uh, I met this patient who really left a very deep impression, on me because I was doing so much therapy with him, and we tried and we tried. Uncle was so affected by the fact that he couldn't really communicate. So he had difficulty speaking, reading, and writing. He was actually working before, but he couldn't go back
Mm-hmm.
to work. He was very affected by it. And one of my therapy sessions involved training him or working with him how to order food when he goes out to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the therapy, I actually brought him out to the hawker center to order food. And even though we had rehearsed and trained so much in the clinic, when he was out in the hawker center, so what happened was he stood in front of the stall. And okay, so I forgot to mention, aphasia does not affect intelligence. It is only the loss of language. Yeah. So he stood in front of the stall, and as he was about to order, the hawker lady was a bit impatient and said, "Faster, faster!" And he got a little bit stunned. But as he recomposed himself and wanted to order, the lady was impatient again, and in the end he ended up not being able to order his food, and I had to step in. And I just felt like this is really unfair and unjust, because I don't think the auntie was being deliberately unkind. I think it
Mm-hmm.
is due to a lack of understanding. I liken where we are in our journey of the aphasia Singapore as like autism 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where people didn't understand that, oh, somebody could actually be on the autism spectrum and behave a certain way because of because they are differently able. It is
Mm-hmm.
not because they are stupid. It is not because they are being difficult. It is really a brain condition. Yeah. So this is what we set out to do at Aphasia Singapore. We want to change impressions. We want to educate one person at a time. And the other big thrust of what we do is to provide support for the patients who have this condition, and to
Mm-hmm.
also provide support to the caregivers. So interestingly, I mean, we used to run this pop-up cafe once a month called Chit Chat Cafe prior to COVID. So we were very fortunate. We had sponsors, like Polar Puff, and all that. They came in to sponsor food, and we ran it once a month as a free program for persons with aphasia and their caregivers to come in to enjoy this cafe setting, because they don't have the confidence yet to go to a Starbucks. But
Mm-hmm.
then we actually set it up for them. But because of COVID, we had to change our program model, and now everything is online. So we actually have a chit chat cafe online where they bring their own kopi and tea, but we still conduct the chit chat, because all our activities have a very therapeutic slant to it. Well, because my core team are made up of speech therapists as well, so we
Mm-hmm.
plan our activities with therapeutic elements in mind. We want them to be able to come to this session, not just it's not it- it's beyond a safe space. We want them to practice talking, and we train our volunteers who facilitate the conversations in breakout rooms to be skilled in the way that can allow them to facilitate conversations even if the person has very severe impairment in talking.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be in the form of marker and paper, just writing down, or using a lot of visual aids. Yeah.
Mm. So
Yeah.
when you
So
are
that's
talking about this, I know the aphasia itself is a condition. I actually googled it to really try to find understand like what it is. So like you mentioned, where is a condition where you can't speak, write, or understand, and often happen because of stroke or head injury, right?
yes.
And I think what you have just mentioned is really really interesting. How you transformed this passion towards helping and serving this specific group of people into a non-profit. And I'm pretty sure that whoever's watching in right now, our ladies who are watching in, they might be wondering like, okay, so there are three different business models out there in the world, which is a for-profit business, a non-profit business, and then we also have the social enterprise, which is a blend of both. So what made you make that decision to choose non-profit over perhaps even a social enterprise?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And how, and I will share that part of the journey, because I realized that this is something that many do-gooders or many change makers actually have questions about. And I've been having this conversation with different groups of people who actually want to start a non-profit, but they're not sure what it entails, and
Mm-hmm.
also why non-profit? What is the model, right? So where Aphasia Singapore is concerned, we actually started off as a ground up movement, which means we didn't register the company. We were just a bunch of volunteers who are do gooders who decided to do this project once a month. and we just decided that okay, we will do this, right? Don't need to register anything. And we started doing it in November 2018. But fast forward a few months, right? Our project grew so much that at the start we had maybe 20 over participants who are our own patients.
Mm-hmm.
And more people started attending the event until we had hundreds of people, right? And we realized that there were also companies that wanted to reach out to us to sponsor, goods, or there are people who actually wrote to us when we appeared in the media. Oh, hey, I like to volunteer, and so on and so forth. And I started exploring how can we formalize this so that we can
Mm-hmm.
actually write in to government to tap on grants and to also formally receive donations from people, because there are caregivers who say, I really appreciate what you have done for my loved one, and we would like to give donations. So that's when I started exploring. And as you mentioned, there's private company, right? So we are familiar with that, private limited, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a smaller form like sole proprietorship. But this is
Yeah.
actually a public company. So we all know the public public listed companies, right?
Yeah.
The model that we have right now in this nonprofit company is actually called a company limited by guarantee. So the
Mm-hmm.
company actually has no share capital. So Aphasia SG has no share capital. And to qualify yourself as a company limited by guarantee, you have to prove to ACRA. So that's where we actually submit, right, the nomination and all that, that you are a company that is carrying out non-profit activities, right, that is for national or public good, so
Mm-hmm.
of national or public interest. Yep. So they will actually ask you a whole series of questions. I remember there's about 12 questions, a very, very long questionnaire, which you must fill up, explaining to them what are your activities, and even breaking down specific, very, very
Mm-hmm.
specific, like how do you plan to carry it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a 1 2 sentence. It was actually quite a long form. So in our case, it was very, very clear. Our mission is to support anyone who has this condition. So actually, even if they are not Singaporeans, we still take them on as
Mm-hmm.
a member, and we will support their caregivers. So our mission is very, very clear in that sense. And we chose. I was also toying with the idea. Oh, so can we actually be a social enterprise? So in my
Mm.
research about companies, social enterprise came up as well, and I spoke to the good people from Race, which is obviously we know the agency that takes care of social enterprises in Singapore. And I learned that, okay, so how social enterprise differs from a not for profit company like us is that a not for it's actually the revenue source. So for us, we are dependent very much, as I mentioned earlier, grants. So
Mm-hmm.
we would write into CDC for grants or tap on some other foundations for grants and donations, or we
Mm.
do our own fundraising drive. But if you're a social enterprise, you must prove that you have a revenue generator. So you
Mm.
are, in a way, generating revenue. So initially, we toyed with the idea of being a social enterprise. We were like, okay, we can do this. Maybe once a month for our pop up cafe, we can sell the drinks and coffee and whatnot. But at the end of the day, when we really examine I would say our core values and what we are about, we realized that no, actually we are non-profit. So we decided to register ourselves as a CLG rather than a social enterprise. Though interestingly, you can be both. So you
Mm.
can register yourself as a CLG and still generate profit, but just show that okay, you are plowing back your profit to serving the cause that you are serving lah. So in our case, serving people with aphasia.
Mm.
I hope
I
it's not
think
too confusing. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds complicated. Definitely, it sounds complicated. I think setting up a business, it does sound complicated, no matter what kind of business. So it's really interesting how you decided that you are not a social enterprise and that you are more of a non-profit. So I'm sure some of you here who are listening in as well or watching, you might be wondering like what could be a possible, like income generator, and like since non-profits technically
Mm,
don't make profits, then how do you earn? I'm sure this is a common question that you get. So
right.
what is your thoughts on that?
So, some really successful enterprises in Singapore, and we have worked with them. You can Google it. So there's Forward Coffee, a very successful social enterprise set up by two young guys, undergrads, and they are doing so well. So, their mission is to support differently abled differently abled individuals. They employ them as staff. So they hire persons with who have ASD, so autism spectrum disorder. They hire people with hearing impairment, and they also try. They also weave in this social revenue generating element by selling coffee. So they actually have physical cafes. So it's a very successful social enterprise. Um, so in our case, how as a NPO non-profit organization you can actually be sustainable, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Sustainability is you could pay yourself a wage, lah, obviously, as a director, right? So you pay yourself a wage, but then you have to think about how you are going to generate, or rather how you're going to raise your funds. I won't say generate income, but how you're going to fundraise in order to pay yourself this wage. So
Mm,
then the mechanism is very different. The process is very different. You are thinking, okay, how am I going to fundraise? Is it through collection of membership fees? And that may not be enough to pay your wage. Then is it through major fundraising? We've done different sorts of fundraising. We've done like a Zoom exercise session where people actually come in and contribute donations, things like that, led by a certified trainer. We have done training courses. So these are some fundraising, profit generating ways. Yeah, but where our organization is concerned, it's we really don't emphasize too much on the profit generation part, because
mhm,
we all of us actually in the team, we are speech therapists with day jobs, so we very much just want to do good, and whatever funds or donations we collect, we just throw it back into the programs. But to anyone who has uh, perhaps a cause that is very deeply rooted in your heart, and you wish to do something, just know that there are ways to sustain it. You can pay yourself a wage, right, as a director. So when you register as a company, you are a director, and you
mhm,
can pay yourself. Yeah, you
mhm.
don't need to staff.
Okay. And you wanted to explain about how sustainability is possible in a non-profit organization, right? So maybe you can shed some further light on that topic.
I mean, where we are concerned. So I mentioned earlier about making sure that you are paid, right? So to sustain your own bread and butter, constant fundraising. And for us, a very big thing is collaborations. We
Mm,
have a lot of partnerships and collaboration, leveraging on the good work that's also done by other people, especially if the mission and the values are very aligned. you know well,
mm.
like for example, like this, I think it's quite aligned, strong women and all that. So we do a lot of collaboration because we believe in um the power of togetherness lah, yeah, like a collective strength sort of thing. Yeah.
Mm. So
Mm,
when it comes to to what you have just mentioned, being sustainable, and then at the same time when you are creating this non-profit
mm,
organization, you might be coming across questions in your mind like, am I good enough? Am I fit enough to actually do all of these things? So that actually leads me to my question, which
mm,
is, what are the qualities or the traits of someone who can actually lead a successful non-profit organization?
mm. I Well, this is a very interesting question, because I think it's like the title of your series suggests, right? Fearless Fempreneurs. I think if you just go and Google, and you go and search something like traits of an entrepreneur, one of the things that will come up is seize the opportunity, right? And I think it's very much tied into this fact about being fearless. Okay, but being fearless doesn't mean being foolish, right? Uh,
Yeah.
First, I think internally, I think do an internal audit and think about what are the assets you have and your skills and assets, and then build on that. Some things you can be trained to do, and you
Mm-mm.
can be coached. You can always find coaches and mentors and trainers who will help you with things that you don't know. But I think
Mm-hmm.
if your purpose and your mission is very clear, everything will fall into place. Yeah. So I would say, pertaining to the trait, I would say, be even if you feel that you're not good enough, just know that actually self doubt. Everyone suffers from a bit of self doubt, but if
True.
you are, yeah, but if you are very certain in this mission that you want to set out to achieve, it doesn't have to be something very very big. It could be something like, I know that I truly have a passion for baking, for example. I'm just going to give a
Mm-hmm.
random example in baking, and I just really want to share the share my food with everyone, and I want to think of how I can do this, right? That actually is a potential business idea that is,
Mm-hmm.
germinating, and you can think about how you can make it happen and scale it up into a business, not a non-profit business, a
Mm-hmm.
for-profit business, but then, you seize that moment and you seize your passion, right? And your skills, and you can make it happen. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, just go for it, but do an internal audit first of what you can put out there, and
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the, like, basically do an assessment of what are the things that you have that is in your favor, what's not in your favor, and then things that are not in your favor, do you have external support like family members who can help, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, just
Yes.
anyone who can chip in or partner with someone.
Yeah, that's those are like standard advice for regardless of the business model. If you
Absolutely.
want to lead an organization, you will just need to have all those capabilities, right? So I guess this sort of leads me to the next question, which is if you have any like words of wisdom for our audience who are thinking about starting a non-profit organization.
I think my advice would be start with the end in mind. You probably heard this phrase before, start with the end in mind. So, with Aphasia Singapore, our vision was very, very clear. I actually know what is my end game, although it may take me, and this is where we are right now, we are nowhere near the end, but I know where I want it to be, but it could
Mm-hmm.
take me a longer time than projected because of the COVID, because a lot of things change, in our very VUCA world right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but just start with the end in mind, and then when things happen along the way, and even if the winds are very volatile, even though the winds are very strong and blowing you side to side, you always have that end point, right? So it may take you a longer road, but you will still get there. Yeah. And I think the other advice I would have to your audience, I know that probably everyone's very different, and also thinking of starting different types of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But I find, and well, I will just share a little bit about my own personal history, because Aphasia Singapore is not the only company I've set up. So I also have my own private practice as a speech therapist, which is called Start Speech Therapy. And years ago in my 20s, I also started a fashion retail business, which we sold off. Uh, I had a partner, and then we sold it off years later. I find that the best way to do a business, right, or the best way to go into it, is to not be driven only by monetary gains,
Mm-hmm.
but to actually have something else, like a larger purpose, something that is like
Definitely.
a mission, or something that defines you, right? And when that is very strong, right, it will it will really propel your business in a good way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If the end goal is just to make money, then it's not very it well, it's possible, but it may not be compelling enough, because
Mm-hmm.
if you want to start, for example, you want to start using baking again, you want to start a cake shop, or you want to start a home bakery business, dime a dozen, there's so many people out there. What is your unique selling point? What defines you?
Mm-hmm.
What is that drive, what is that passion that you have that's going to make you stand out above everyone else? Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think that is good advice that a lot of entrepreneurs need to listen to. That regardless of the business model, regardless, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a bigger purpose, a bigger goal at the end of the day, and that you're doing this for that big goal. Because if you're only chasing money, there's only so far that you can go, so much that you can, move towards.
Yeah.
But if you are
Yeah.
chasing the end goal of changing lives, creating impact, building a purposeful business or organization, you will be definitely be able to plan your path towards getting there. So yeah, I think that's really amazing. So how can our listeners get in touch with you or even support Aphasia SG?
Okay, very easy. We are so Aphasia SG. You can actually find us on Facebook. So search APHASIA SG. We
Mm-hmm.
are on Facebook. Yeah. If you can type it out, then we are also on LinkedIn. We are also on Instagram. We also have our own Telegram channel. So you can find us on all these mediums. It's great. I mean, we also do a lot of public outreach. In fact, this time around, because of COVID, June was Aphasia Awareness Month. We did stuff like movie screening, but of course we had to pivot, right? Last year we did a movie screening at the projector, but this year we cannot do it at the projector. So we actually did a different version. We did a
Mm.
Netflix party movie screening. But the icing on the cake was we actually managed to invite the director of the movie. It was
Wow.
and it was a movie called My Beautiful Broken Brain. She suffered a brain aneurysm, a very serious stroke at the age of 34. She's from the UK, and she actually came to do a post-show dialogue for us. So we have cool stuff like this. So
Wow.
yeah, follow us on Instagram and on our social medias. So I'll just spell that again. So it's APHASIASG, and
Mhm.
you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Telegram.
All
Yeah,
right, great. So
and
I
if
think you they
yeah,
can donate as well, right? If they want to.
yes. Well, I don't think we actually have a QR code for them to donate. If they wish to, can. I forgot. If they want to get in touch with me, you can just email Evelyn at aphasia.sg. Evelyn@aphasia.sg. Yeah. And our website is www.aphasia.sg. Gosh, that's a lot of information.
Great. All this information we can actually write it down during the replay. So
Right.
after at the end of this, we're going to edit a little bit so that you will be able to get all this information out. All right. I think I had a
Cool.
great
Yeah.
discussion with you, Evelyn. It is interesting to see the perspective of a non-profit organization, seeing how like for my organization, we are a social enterprise, and looking at it from a different perspective, which is the non-profit way, it really opens up my mind to see the potential of how you can actually give value and benefit to society, as per what you mentioned, right? The requirements for you to set up a non-profit organization is that, right?
Yeah.
You have to set it up, you have to set something up that can give value and benefit the society. So
Yes.
it's amazing that you are doing this. It's also great for you to create this in a way where even I am more aware about what aphasia is, and how people with this symptom or this illness will be able to actually get support and know that they are not alone in this journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Huda. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate, and I truly think you're doing wonderful work with your organization, with your company. And yeah, I mean, just a last shout out. If any one of you actually happens to know anyone with aphasia or communication difficulty,
Mhm.
it could be your neighbor, it could be even a relative, a distant relative. Yeah, direct them to the aphasia.sg website. Yeah, I mean, we are really here to support and help anyone who has a communication problem. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So if you want to get in touch with Evelyn, you can go to aphasia.sg. That's their website, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's
And then
right.
you can also look up for them on Facebook, Aphasia SG. And if you want to get in touch directly with Evelyn, you can send an email to evelyn@aphasia.sg. All right.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Evelyn, for being here. And lastly, just for me to also wrap up the episode, if you want to access the replay, and if you have further questions for Evelyn that you would want to ask privately, or you see that being a woman, there's some private questions that you would like to ask, you can join this Facebook group by going to the link right below that's displayed on the screen right now. So go to fempreneur.com. So this is my short link. Okay, /fearless register, and you will be brought to the link to our Facebook group. I will add Evelyn inside there as well. So if there's any questions that you have, you can also direct the questions straight to Evelyn. All right. So with that, thank you so much, Evelyn, for being here.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
great. It's a great honor to actually be discussing about the topic on nonprofit, because we don't have that many people who do nonprofit, and coming especially to our show. So this is really amazing. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for being here. All right.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
with that, remember to keep learning and keep believing in yourself, because the world needs an inspiration just like you. And I'll see you soon in the next episode. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks,